Let's start with this visit to Iraq. Richard, politically, more than just a thank the troops visit?
Oh, sure. Listen, Obama's not all that long into his administration, and what he's signaling to the U.S. and to the world is it's a new day. It's a new day at home, and it's a new day abroad. And certainly the trip leading up to this visit to Iraq showed a different face that the United States is putting forward now. Obviously, Obama ran as somebody who was going to change policy in Iraq. I think there's a certain affection that the troops actually show for him. That we saw that during the campaign when he made a couple of stops with the troops stationed abroad. And I think he wants to demonstrate that back. He's not ignoring Iraq. And I think by closing Guantanamo, he's doing all the things that need to happen to basically say, we're changing things. We're reaching out to the Muslim world. And yes, Iraqis, this is now your fight.
Alex, just as Richard was speaking, we've gotten two more bits of information kind of feeding to us from Baghdad. We hope to get some pictures soon. One is that the vice president's son, Beau Biden, is said to be in this audience of the president's, and also that the president has just said bringing American troops home from Iraq is tied to making Iraq more stable and not a safe haven for terrorists. Does raise the question of why would he not be stopping in Afghanistan, as he's had such a focus on that?
I think that's an excellent question. And in fact, counter to what Richard said, the president's strategy in Iraq is pretty much the same as President Bush's. It's conditions-based, and he's going to leave 50,000 troops there for years to come. But that said, I'm glad to see he's continuing, just like he's continuing Bush's policies in Iraq, he's continuing the tradition of visiting, making surprise visits to Iraq. It's regrettable that he couldn't also go to Afghanistan because he's ordered a surge of troops into Afghanistan. That's where most U.S. casualties are coming from right now. It's an important front on the war on terror, but I'm glad to see that he's in Baghdad.
I want to move on, too, because when he gets home, he's now approaching his 100th day in office, and he's got plenty on his agenda still. Already, he's been pushing, as you know, key parts of his agenda, really with this breakneck speed in the first couple of months. We wanted to show our viewers, just to give you some perspective of what has been done so far. First day in office, he issues the executive order to close Guantanamo, as Richard was referring to. In February, presents the budget for 2010, record-breaking $3.6 trillion. In March, he rejects the plans by the automakers GM and Chrysler demanding restructuring plans before sending any further government aid. I mean, that's just to name a few here. As we go forward, there's a top three list, I guess you could say. It's energy, it's health care, it's financial regulations. Alex, to you, what gets done on those three fronts this year, if any of them?
Well, I think there's big questions of any of them are going to get done. And it's not because of Republican opposition. He's got big majorities in the House and the Senate. It's conservative and moderate Democrats who are saying, whoa, hang on, we're spending too much, we're taxing too much, we're borrowing too much. We need to slow it down a little bit. So I think there's big questions on how much of his agenda can actually get passed.
Richard, that workload is pretty weighty, and some would say it's way too weighty for Congress. If you got one of those things even partially done, that could be considered a victory.
Well, I don't know that financial services reform is really a partisan issue. My sense is that both parties agree that's what got us into the mess that we're in, and that needs to be addressed lickety-split. And I don't really see that as something that is going to fall by the wayside. Health care, it's changed from 16 years ago when the Clintons pushed it because the business community realizes in a global world they need to compete against their foreign competition where health care is given and it's not in the U.S. Energy, actually, I think in 2009, yeah, they probably won't get their climate change bill done, but I think they're going to make strides on energy efficiency and other incentives for renewables and alternative energy that actually at the end of the day will show a lot of reductions in greenhouse gases. So I actually think it's going to be a pretty formidable record. Maybe you could have Alex and me back in a year and we'll see.
And Alex, if it doesn't work, can the administration go ahead and blame Congress and say, hey, we tried, we put it out there?
Well, no, because he has the majorities in Congress. It's his responsibility to work with the Congress. And, he's got a very formidable White House staff. I have a column in Politico this morning talking about his chief strategist who wields a lot of power. And it's incumbent on them to work with the Congress to reach out with Republicans and get things done. And if they can't get it done, then that falls on the president.
Alex, Conant, Richard Goodstein, we're going to have to leave it there as we continue to watch for the latest updates from Baghdad. Thanks, guys.